Krishna Rama Hare Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Gokula Nanda Radha Gokula Nanda Shri Radhe Jaya Sita Ram Lakshmana Hanuman Jaya Sita Ram Lakshmana Hanuman Jaya Goranitai Jaya Goranitai Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Srila Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Sorry, just a moment, I'm just trying. Okay. So, Hare Krishna, everyone in the temple, and for everyone that is watching online. Today's class will be a very interesting one. So, first of all, I beg for the mercy and the blessings of all the Vaishnavas that are present in the temple room and those that are watching this online. Please bless me so that I can say something useful, something beneficial, something that can help you and can help me in my spiritual life. Today we'll be reading and we'll be discussing from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3 and text 23, which is named Karma Yoga. So if you have your books, then bring them out. I know it's so easy and so convenient just to do everything online nowadays, but believe me, it takes away that learning opportunity and that very introspective mood. Nothing beats like a book. So chapter 3. Just bear with me for a second. So what I'll do is we'll recite it in Sanskrit and then the transliteration, and then after that the translation, and then we'll get into it. So Yadihi aham na vateyam jatu kamani atandrita mama vatmanu vatante manushyaha pata savashaha yadihi aham na vateyam jatu kamani atandrita mama vatma nuvatante manushyaha pata savashaha yadihi aham na vateyam jatu kamani atandrita mama vatmanu vatante manushyaha pata savashaha. Yadi aham na vateyam jatu kamani atandrita mama vatmanu vatante manushya pata savashaha. Okay, transliteration. Yadi, if, he, certainly, aham, I, na, do, not, vateyam, thus engage, jatu, ever, karmani, in the performance of prescribed duties, atandrita, with great care, mama, my, vatma, path, anuvatante, would follow, manushya, all men, pata, O son of Pritha, savashaha, in all respects. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada Ki. For if I ever fail to engage in carefully performing prescribed duties, O Partha, certainly all men would follow my path. Translation. Purport. In order to keep the balance of social tranquility for progress in spiritual life, there are traditional family usage meant for every civilized man. Although such rules and regulations are for the conditioned souls and not Lord Krishna, because he descended to establish the principles of religion, he followed the prescribed rules. Otherwise, common men would follow in his footsteps. Because he is the greatest authority from the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is understood that Lord Krishna was performing all the religious duties at home and out of home as required of a householder. So once more, just want to say Hare Krishna to everyone and thank you so much for joining. So today's topic is an interesting one, and I was really reflecting and meditating for quite a while in what to talk about. Actually, I had to wake up quite early this morning to meditate on what it is that I would talk about. And I thought a very fitting subject today would be about leadership. Leadership is a huge thing nowadays in our society. So what makes one a good leader? What is a good example of leadership? So I thought I would start off with a quote that I came across, which I really like, that if serving is beneath you, leadership is beyond you. A true leader is one who knows the way. And what does this mean? In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, verse 26, Krishna says, O Arjuna, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I know everything that has happened in the past, all that is happening in the present, and all things that are yet to come. I also know all living entities, but me no one knows. So Krishna says, Veda, no, Aham, I, Sama, equally. And one thing that kind of really stood out for me in the transliteration for this is, Veda, no. We understand that the source of everything comes from the Veda. So today, people have a very general and very different concept of what it means to be a leader. We've been influenced by social media. We've been influenced by books that we read, people that we speak. And we practically think in today's modern day, leadership means someone that has a powerful reputation. Someone who plays around with people's aspirations. Someone who manipulates others to do their work and then takes credit. Someone who works in making people dependent on them rather than inspiring them, encouraging them, and uplifting them to also be responsible leaders in society, to dive deeper into spirituality. So this is practically what people consider to be a good leader, and actually not just do they consider, they aspire. Like, I was actually online doing some research and I came across this ad from someone called Dan Locke. And we have a lot of people like this, but I just wanted to use this particular as an example. And so he was talking about the marketplace and, how the marketplace oftentimes cares about our value. It doesn't care about our challenges. It doesn't care about our difficulties. It doesn't care about our emotions or our experiences. It just cares about value and what skills we have. So these are practically the 21st century leaders of our world today. People that just simply care about having more, making more, rather than serving. And again, I repeat, like I said, if serving is beneath you, then leadership is beyond you. So one thing I want to establish in this discussion is why Krishna is the perfect leader. And I'll also touch on Lord Ram today, because as we're also in that festival right now, Lord Ram's appearance day. But before I do that, so one thing that came to my mind is, in the past, we used to have at least an idea of what a good leader was. But what's changed over the years, what's changed over the decades, what's changed over the generations? And it's basically how we are receiving our source of information. They say that right now we are drowning in information and we're seeking for wisdom. Wisdom that can transform our life, wisdom that can transform our vision, darshan. So one of the way, of course, we've established even in Srila Jiva Goswami's Tattva Sandarbha, that one of the way that we can actually acquire knowledge is through Pratyaksha, so through direct perception. We see something or we hear something, then that's one way of acquiring knowledge. This is one way of learning. But we know that this form of learning, this form of receiving information and knowledge, and this is how most people, this is how they develop aspiration for certain people in their life. They see the success that they've attained, they see the lifestyle that they're living, they see the sort of life they're leading, and they're like, okay, this is what I want. Because as soon as you perceive something, the next thing is, how can I take pleasure out of this? Because by nature we're all pleasure seekers. So we're always looking for ways to increase our happiness more. But the more we try and increase our happiness, the less happy we actually experience being. Because that happiness is separation from the Lord. So this is one way. The other way is anuman, mental speculation. Something that we may have received, like I really like this thing I was saying in one of the previous class, that if you tell a lie long enough, it becomes a truth. Preach a truth long enough, it becomes a culture. And endorse a culture, practice a culture long enough, it becomes a tradition. So we have practically given today's leader that pedestal to be worshipped, to be given so much attention, to be literally taken as factual, whatever they say, whatever they do, however they live. This is mental speculation. We based on informations that we've received, based on experiences we've had in the past, we think that, okay, this is what it must be to be a leader. So we know that with these two ways of trying to determine and define what a leader, what a real leader means, is very limited, is very restricted, and it can lead us to deviation of what it really means to be a leader. Because we know that we're prone to 4 types of mistakes, in this material world, in this material body, which is one, confusing one thing for another. And I'm sure that those that are watching online, including myself, we've done this in the past. And we still continue to do so. That someone may have said something and we actually take it the wrong way. We don't really hear things as they are. We don't see things as they are. We don't absorb things as they are. We absorb things as we are. We see things as we are. We hear things as we are, based on our personal upbringing, based on our personal experiences. So that's one way. The other way is inattentiveness. Often I experience when I'm in class, my mind just wanders off. When I'm listening to class, at least, my mind wanders off to what I need to do, what I need to eat, where I need to go. And so oftentimes this is another way that we miss out on many opportunities to spot learning, to spot growth, to spot development in our spiritual life. The other way is the desire to deceive others. We know in life, we see this in the material world many times. When people don't get things their way, they try and manipulate situations, circumstances. They try and manipulate people into their way of thinking, their way of being, their way of acting. And there's many so-called great leaders that also endorse this sort of behavior, this sort of approach of being a leader. One book I used to read in the past before coming into the movement was The 48 Laws of Power. And if you read it, you'll understand exactly what I mean. And the other way in general is that, our senses are weak. We have a weakness of senses. We can't fully rely on it. So these are the 4 ways. So we can clearly see that whether we're trying to rely on our direct perception or whether we're trying to rely on mental speculations, these are not really the ways of establishing and determining what it means to follow a good leader. Therefore, the highest knowledge comes from Shabda, or descending knowledge, rather not ascending knowledge. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, verse 7, whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice, O descendant of Bharat, and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself. So we know, this is one discussion I was having with a friend of mine. Krishna is the Supreme Lord. Krishna has no profit nor any gain to work, to do any duty. Krishna doesn't even necessarily have to be here to exterminate or to eliminate demoniac people. He can send his agents. He can do it through many ways. So we understand that one of the reason, or the real reason that Krishna came here is to be with his devotees. To be with his devotees, even when he took even when he partook the battle of Kurukshetra, it was to be with his devotees, to be with Arjuna. And another reason is really to give darshan, to give vision to his devotees in how to lead and live the ideal life. As a leader, as a husband, as anything and everything basically, to kind of, really show people what it means to live the ideal character. And Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, verse 21, whatever action a great man performs, common men follow, and whatever standards he sets by exemplary act, all the world pursues. So then another quality of a leader is not only can he show the way, he also goes the way. Many people talk, but our talking has no potency if there is not an example to follow. The moment that we actually start acting what we're speaking about, then there's more influence and potency to our words. It carries more weight when we give advices or when we share something with other devotees or we share with other people. So therefore, in another same chapter, actually, Krishna says that, verse 23, for if I did not engage in work or part, certainly all men would follow my path, as we've just basically mentioned. And not only does a leader go the way, a leader also shows the way. Chapter 3, verse 24, if I should cease to work, then all these worlds would be put to ruination. I would also be the cause of creating unwanted population, and I would thereby destroy the peace of all sentient beings. So we've established, therefore, our way of defining what a good leader means is restricted, it's limited. So what does Krishna then teach us about being a visionary leader? And I took this from a book, Conscious Leadership, I don't know the full name, but by Bhaktivedanta Manor. So what it means to be a good leader, good leadership is not about just making things happen. It's not about making things happen, it's not about that, it's about making essential things happen according to time, place and circumstances. I was sharing something else, that in life it's not so much about what we do, what we've achieved, what we have accomplished or what we said, but it's about who we become in the process, who we become in the spiritual journey. And it's about creating an impact, creating a difference. And through that, what happens is the journey allows us to develop the qualities that we need to come closer to Krishna, to develop that vision, that darshan, to be able to see Krishna in everything that we do. And that's another thing. Peace is not the absence of chaos. Peace is basically being able to see Krishna in everything that we do and everything that we see. That's real peace. That's real vision. So another thing about a leader is making important and productive things happen. And in the process, not just making important and productive things happen, because we can make important and productive things happen according to our understanding, according to our vision, according to how we want to perceive things. But it's also about making people feel good about what is happening in an authentic and genuine way. Richard Branson once said, clients do not come first, employees come first. And if you take care of your employees, they will take care of your clients. So then we understand that it's really about serving the devotees, serving the people around us. It's not so much about what we want, rather putting aside what we want for what needs to be done. And this is the way to make people favorable to Krishna consciousness, to spiritual life, to make them more favorable to a cleaner life. The other thing is leaders also need to have a vision, but also convince others that their vision can manifest. How do we convince? Not through trying to convince people through our words, rather through our practical action, our practical example. And when we can do this, then we can also engage others to participate in achieving the mission together. So a leader is someone, like I came across this very beautiful quote once. A leader is someone who can bring people who may feel that they have nothing in common, bring them together for a common vision. Nowadays in the world, when we look at a banner, when we look at the newspaper, when we talk to other people, all that we take notice of is each other's differences. very oftentimes do we actually talk more about commonalities rather than differences. What do we have all in common? We're all stuck in this material world, or we are in this material world. We're all suffering, even those that think they're happy and they're enjoying. And we're all trying to somehow or another find happiness, trying to find peace. You know, Prabhupada once said that the thing is that we're all looking for the right thing, but we're looking for it in the wrong places. Now, the beauty of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, the beauty of devotees coming together, Sangha, is that we can discuss and we can inspire and we can empower each other to go deeper into devotional life, to go circular, deeper, and to find a way to get out of this material world. And this was what Prabhupada was an expert at. Prabhupada came to America in 1965. He hardly had a lot of penny to his name. He hardly knew which way he would face, where he would go, what he would do. But even with all those challenges, because he lived an exemplary life and a life of example, you know, book Bhagavat, literally practically living the Bhagavatam, living the Gita, living the scriptures over time, and not preaching. You know, that's one thing that we need to establish. He didn't come and tell people what to do, how to do. He just led a life of example. And through his actions, he inspired this explosion of Krishna consciousness, this explosion of spiritual life, this explosion within people for a better life. And when people were then open and recipient, then he was ready to share. Oftentimes, what it is that we're very hasty to just give advices. But as I've mentioned earlier on, it doesn't carry potency and it doesn't carry weight and strength if we're not applying what we're speaking. And so today, practically all over the world, we see Rath Yatras and many festivals where many millions of people come together, they dance, they chant the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. They honor prasadam. They worship deities nicely, and all this because of the exemplary, the expert that Prabhupada was, the example that he lived. And even though physically and materially I may say his absence, he still lives on. He's still here with us in this temple room, everywhere, through his books. So a leader is not just someone that just can tell people. A leader is someone who can be, do, see, and tell. And actually, we can, in Jaiva Dharma, basically, Srila Bhaktivedanta, in Hari Bhaktivilas 10.317, it basically says that if a devotee of Sri Krishna stays in this world for even 5 days, it is a great blessing to humanity. However, if a non-devotee, one who has no devotion for the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, lives in this world for hundreds of aeons, it will not benefit humanity. In fact, it will usher in misfortune. So this is the potency of a devotee. This is the potency of one that has faith in Sri Krishna. Their life becomes pure, and with that purity, as they say, purity is the force, and with that force, they can inspire many, many people around them. They can change the vision of many people around them. So I just want to talk a little bit about the qualities, some qualities of what it means to be a leader. And this is a discussion that took place basically between Krishna and Bhishma Dev in the Mahabharata. There was a scene where Krishna basically said to Bhishma Dev, okay, go on and explain the different qualities of a leadership. And I can't go through all of them because we don't have so much time. So I will just go through a few. And then I'll just kind of explain it a little bit more. So, first of all, Bhishma Dev said that Dharma, religiosity, integrity, right action, and morality are the watchwords of the king. We know that there's nothing more powerful than Dharma and integrity. And when we actually fail in performing and executing Dharma, then we lose integrity. And then we're prone to trying to attain everything and anything in life. And we can see an example like this of Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great was practically someone who conquered everything in the world. He had everything that an ordinary folk like yourself and I, we probably aspire for. Even if we don't fully recognize it, there's that subtle desire that we want to be wealthy, that we want to be rich, we want to be powerful, we want to have land. As I've mentioned earlier on, because we're parts and parcel of the Lord. So even though we have similar qualities. We don't have it in quantity. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to attain that by force. So Alexander the Great was someone who had everything. But even though he had everything when he died, he said to the doctors, broadly open my hand when I die. Let me face upwards. And what this really, what he was trying to tell people is that even though he was someone that he conquered the whole world and everything in it, he still couldn't take it with him at his time of death. So this is one thing that we must all be conscious of, aware of, that if we compromise Dharma for sense pleasure, for something that we can instantly achieve right now and right here, okay, we may be able to enjoy it for another 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, even 100 years, but we can't take it with us. And so in Alexander the Great, in his tombstone, it was written, a tomb now suffices for him for whom the world was not enough. As Prabhupada said, there's enough in this world for our need, but there's not enough for our greed. And the more we want, it doesn't satisfy us because we want more. And why? Because we're missing that link, that connection with the Supreme Lord, who can ultimately satisfy all of our senses. Just by worshipping Him, by serving Him, and by serving His devotees. The other thing is that controlling our own desires. That's another thing that Bhishma Dev was basically mentioning. This is another quality of a leader, one that can control his lust. Lust is the root of all sin. It destroys all merit and goodness. Lust is dangerous. Whenever we fail to maintain our integrity and our sense control, this is when we actually begin to feel less concerned for other people and more concerned about our own needs, our own desire, our own want. And as actually Mahatma Prabhu once wrote in his book, Living the Wisdom of Bhakti, Maya does not tempt us in the areas that we're the strongest, rather the areas that we are the weakest in. And so this is why it's really important that we learn to control our desires. And the greatest way of controlling our desires, as mentioned, is through engaging it in the devotional service of the Lord. And these are some very practical tips, by the way. Even though Bhishma Dev was speaking this at the battlefield, this is something that we can practically all of us take with us in our life. We all find challenges with controlling our senses. And sometimes we make easy decisions that we regret later on, rather than making difficult decisions and living with it later on. The other one is considering one's people before oneself. Bhishma Dev said, a king's duty is to his people. He should take care of them with no thought of pleasing himself. He should be subordinate. His wishes and desires to those of people. So we understand, like nowadays, actually, when you think about leaders, you think about people that just say things because they have an agenda. Everyone has an agenda. Everyone has something that they want. And that's why actually one of the rule in the 48 laws of power, if we I'm not saying read it, but it says is that oftentimes conceal your own real desires and tell people what they want to hear. This is another way of manipulating people, and this is what people consider practically to be a good leader nowadays. But a real king is someone that puts his people before himself. And we see great personalities. One person that always comes to mind is Vyasudev Dutt, who basically was ready and willing to take the karma, the sins of the whole universe, so that therefore they can be liberated. We can see this also through Lord Ram, who was who practically put Mother Sita out of the kingdom just so that he can serve his people, just so that he can please his people. So these are some very exemplary example of what it means to put other people's needs before our own. And that's really the secret, there's a very cringy quote, but this is actually the process, this is the method of what it means to really live, is by giving, by sharing, by creating opportunities for others. And when we create more opportunities for others, then we actually find opportunity to be more peaceful, to be more grateful, to live a more self-satisfied life. So, and the other thing is also we must be careful of what we say. That's also really important. So I've spoken a little bit about the qualities of a leader. Now let's dive a little bit deeper. A visionary leader, a true leader, is someone that is considered as dasuna das, servant of the servant. A real leader is someone that is a servant leader. And so what I want to do is I just want to basically share some few qualities of a servant leader. And then I guess I'll just open up for discussion as I'm coming closer to this topic. And so what I would also suggest is that for those that are watching online, if you have any comment, then please do feel free just to post it onto wherever you're watching this from. So a servant leader is someone who engages everyone. And this is something that we can all practically take with us, whether we have children, whether it's that we're in a workplace, wherever it is, this is someone that we can all practically apply in our life. It's someone who engages people according to their propensities, their varnas and their ashram. And not only that, but understands how to satisfy the needs and not the wants of people. We live in a world where people are influenced to think that they want sympathy. But really, what people are looking for, what people really need is empathy. People think they want riches, but what really people need is fulfillment. People think they want fame, but what really people want is appreciation. People think they want power, but what people really need is an opportunity and support. And people think they want domination, they want to dominate, they want to rule, they want to conquer. But what really people want is protection because they're afraid, they're insecure. So this is a real true leader, is someone that can provide people with their needs and not just surrender to their wants. Because people don't necessarily really know what they want because they don't know who they are. They don't know their identity. They don't know that they're servant of the servant. They don't know that they belong to the Supreme Lord. They don't know their purpose. They don't know why they're here, and they don't know where they're going. So how can they clearly establish and define what their purpose is, what they want, what they desire? So therefore, a true leader is someone that can take someone's vision, someone's life, and create a bigger plan, a bigger vision, and a bigger purpose. And what is that purpose? Devotional service of the Lord. To engage all of our skills and our abilities to serve the Lord, to serve the devotees. And through that process, engaging our senses in something higher so that therefore we can be purified and we can all return back home, back to Godhead. So that's really the end of my discussion. Thank you so much for listening, for taking the time. Really appreciate it. I hope that you've made the most use of this time by taking notes, and if you have any questions, then please do share, because the one thing that once we lose, we can't get it back in this world is time. Money, currency, you can spend and you can always make more. Time, once it's gone, is gone. So I hope you've made you took something out of this, it was conducive for you, you took notes, and I hope you'll share it with other people if you don't share it with us because I can't see you. And I don't know if you'll be actually able to post questions and comments, but even if you're not sharing it with me, I hope you can share it with someone, and this will inspire you to go deeper into Krishna conscious and to try and be a devotee of the Lord. Hare Krishna. Any question?
Yes, thank you very much for the class, Mohan. One question I have is about that there are so many different groups and traditions in the world. So I'm wondering how would...
Sorry, can you say that louder?
Because there's so many different... There's so many different groups and traditions in the world.
Groups and religion?
Yeah, groups and traditions.
Oh, traditional religions?
No, different groups and traditions.
Okay.
Religions and so on.
Yeah.
So many different groups and traditions that I wonder how can these find a common ground to be united?
So there's many groups and discussion. I think really it's just about oftentimes what we do is that due to our own insecurity, and like, so the question was, yeah, there's many groups and many different religions and many different beliefs. So how can everyone cooperate? How can everyone work together? And I was sharing this with one personality, like one devotee here, that oftentimes because of our insecurity, what it is that we try and widen our, you can say, stick and shorten other people through because of our insecurity by putting them down, even if it's not verbally, mentally, like, oh, my religion is better than this person's religion. My way is better than this person's way. And what we're trying to enforce and establish is that kind of, you can say, a facade of a confidence. Because we're lacking real self-confidence. We're lacking real self-awareness. We're lacking being self-satisfied. And these are all things that we can develop through deepening our relationship with Krishna. And when we deepen our relationship with Krishna, what we can actually be amazed by, what we can appreciate is that there's many variety of people all over the world. And they're all following Krishna the way they think they should. And through kindness, through a humble approach, through trying to understand rather than trying to correct, through having a deeper relationship with people, like just building a friendship with people, rather than like, I'm here to preach to you, I'm here to change your way. What it is that naturally people open their trust to you. And this is one of the big difficult things that people have in the world, that you can be in the same room with someone, have a laugh with them, talk with them, get along with them, but you may not necessarily trust them. People are experiencing a lot of trust issues in the world today. And that trust issue comes from a sense of a fear. A fear that, we don't want to be made to feel in a particular way that we don't necessarily want to feel. A fear of trauma. Like someone was describing the other day, trauma doesn't necessarily mean something like horrific that you've went through. Trauma can simply mean that you have a certain belief, and that certain belief is being challenged. That certain belief is being went against. And that's another way of experiencing trauma, because then you don't know what to do anymore. You don't know how to function and how to maneuver. So if someone is coming and trying to make you feel uncomfortable because of your belief, then that's a trauma, and that's you actually losing trust in people. So it's through developing a genuine relationship and friendship that is based on love, that is based on service, not trying to change people. And through this way, we can develop more cooperation, friendship. Okay. Any other question? All right, thank you so much. Shri Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, all glories to Prabhupada, all glories to the devotees. Thank you, Hare Krishna.